Well, hello, here we are again. I'm so excited to be together with all of you. My name is Julie Landy, and I'm the founder of Live Your Vision and the host for this series. This is Living. And today's special because it's kind of a flip the script kind of day. Alexandra, our guest for today, not long ago, I think it was like a week or two, actually interviewed me. And so I was so intrigued by our time together. I said, you know what? Tag, you're it. Let's go back and do you instead. And she is such a articulate and beautiful speaker. And I felt so honored and privileged to be a guest on her podcast, which you'll all have to follow for sure. We'll talk about that in just a second. But said, you know what? She's always asking the questions of all these people that she interviews on her podcast. How about we get to learn about her? Sometimes the one doing the hosting is a bit mysterious. So I'm thankful to pull the curtain back and give you a little peek into the mystery today. So welcome, please welcome my guest today, Alexandra Alvarez. And, she's a woman, I don't even know where to begin, except for that she speaks about a bazillion languages and has lived all over the world. And you'll get to hear about that in a minute. But she definitely exemplifies living the way that we describe it, an elevated way of thinking, believing, and showing up. And as a result, all these possibilities and a whole other world is opened up to her and opens up to you when you decide to live like that. So that's what we do. We help women discover and develop and distribute their great gifts for amazing new chapters. And Alexandra is one of them. So why don't you start, Alexandra, and share a little bit about your background? Because let's dig into that.
Thank you, Julie. It's so nice to be here, and it's so nice to be on the other side, like you said. And I'm very honored, and so thank you for having me. So yes, about myself. You probably noticed my accent. I'm from Europe. I'm half Belgian, half Bulgarian. My first language is French, and less than 2 decades ago, I bought a one-way ticket, and I moved to Los Angeles, and I never looked back. My life has been changed forever, and it wasn't overnight for sure. I have been married for almost 18 years in September. I have 2 children, a daughter, Alexandra, she's 9. My son Alejandro is 13. My husband is Alejandro. We're the Alex family. So that's a little bit about us. So I have a real estate license. So I'm a realtor officially. I have a bachelor's degree of linguistics, literature, philosophy. I've always loved learning. I've always been curious. And I now have a podcast. And actually, that is what I'm doing full time. And currently it's called 1 Minute to Glory. But exclusive announcement, I'm actually renaming it. I don't know if I can share right now, but it'll be, or just tune in a little bit, but I'll definitely send the announcement very soon. And just really, I've been digging deeper into whom I am serving, and I'm very excited about all of that and helping women thrive the same way. So yeah, that's a little bit about me in a few minutes.
Yeah, very few, because I have had the great privilege of hearing Alexandra's longer version of her story, and it's really, oh my gosh, it's so interesting. How old were you when you bought that one-way ticket to come here?
Ooh, so I had graduated college. I worked the European Union. I studied a little bit of acting. I entered the Conservatory of Drama for a year. So like 23, 24. Yeah.
And really, you just literally said, that's it. I'm going to buy a one-way ticket to LA from Brussels. Is that where you were, in Brussels?
Yeah, I was in Brussels. Yeah. I was, I mean, it's just a series of events, just lots of losses. And I just felt like I needed a new start. I couldn't really move on. I just couldn't move on like nothing. Like it really required for me to just take myself somewhere else, somewhere new. And the United States have always been dear to my heart. And I really felt called to come here. And I am here now. So yeah.
Amazing. I really do wish you guys could all hear the long story, because it's quite something. And the losses are obviously a part of it, as she mentioned. But what she's learned and what she's accomplished in such a short time is very significant. And then the hardships that occurred when she even got here, with the challenges with visa and travel and all that other things.
Mhm.
We probably can't get into all of that now, but I think it led to some of where you're at now. Would you mind sharing a little bit about like what led you to actually becoming a voice for this kind of global voice for, podcasting with the podcast and, obviously real estate. I'm not sure exactly how you got into that either. So why don't you tell us?
Well, quite honestly, I was trying because you sent me these questions, and so I was just thinking, it's like, how did I get into podcasting? And quite honestly, I don't know because I never dreamt to be a podcaster. Like I don't even know. Last year I did not know what it was. It's just I had no idea. How do you do that? Had no idea about the tech. But like I said, I love to learn and I'm very curious. And once something pops into my mind, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I need to go there. Like I have no idea. That's exactly where I need to go. So I would say, God, like really, I feel like the only explanation is this is what it is like to be led by the Holy Spirit. That's what I feel. As John 3:8 says, the wind blows where it wishes, but you do not know where it comes from. And that's what I feel, once it is very freeing in a way to believe that your life can change and it is for the better, that all these changes are there. And but it does take participation on my end as well to just be led like that, just like when I moved to the United States. I mean, who does that, and I kind of really, once I moved and I settled down a minute, I was like, what have I done? I mean, who does that?
Yeah.
So I did have to do a lot of work within, to get clarity about what the Spirit says and wants, and get out of my own way. But I also became a Christian very soon, as soon as I moved to the United States. And there's that scripture that says that we receive the spirit of power, of love, and of self-discipline. And I really believe that. Like, I did not move. I moved on my own here. Now I have the Spirit. Hello, what can, there's no, if I need self-discipline, if I need power and courage to just move forward, I can do it. And then getting a coaching also has been, has helped me a lot. And Live Your Vision was definitely one of them. But definitely, just be surrounded by like-minded people, just to kind of allow yourself to settle down. Like, no, you're not crazy. There's something going on here, because sometimes you just do feel disconnected. And so, yeah. I don't know if
I do remember, if you don't mind me saying so, because I had the privilege of working with Alexandra. So I do remember some of her very obvious gifts and natural gifts were connection, and how she longed. I don't know if it came from that period of isolation where you were, for lack of a better way of saying it, this very global citizen that was then locked up because her visa was not working. I mean, she was unable to travel. Could you imagine? She's traveling the whole world. She lives everywhere around the world. And then she comes to the US, her dream place, and she's unable to travel at all. She's locked away in Florida, of all places, right? And I just think the irony of that, when inside of you lives a connector, that's what we discovered when we worked together, is this connector inside of Alexandra that is just a deep yearning to connect ideas and thoughts and learn and people. And then on top of that, with your process of just going, I find ways, like there's a discontent that starts stirring within me, and I'm going to figure it out from there. So she's pretty, I guess maybe that describes why it really helps us understand why you did what you did from Europe to here, to moving to, all the things that you've done. And, but I just am so inspired by the way that you have said, okay, you know what, I'm going to create a vehicle for myself. Because now, as she mentioned, she is married and has 2 young children. And so it's not like she can go off globetrotting when she has responsibilities at home, but she's still found a way to use her gifts for greater impact, even if she's right now in a cubicle And so I just think that's you, my friend. That is really one of your great gifts, is to be able to create bigger impact from a small place. Or when you get to travel the world again, I'm sure that will happen as well. And I for sure see that. So give us a couple of what would you say is some, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of pursuing a dream today. That was one of our themes that we wanted to discuss. So why don't you share with us what, whether it's pursuit of the dream, the American dream, or whether it's pursuit of getting married, or pursuit of having children, or pursuit of the dream of connecting globally with people. What are some of the good things that have come from that? And they may seem obvious, but share them with us anyway, because I know many of the listeners are actually pursuing their dreams. That's why they're listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's definitely a long process. I came with a student visa, and then little by little things were complicated. So, and I could do less and less and less, and that's where really God allowed me to go within. Right, when you can't be distracted by anything else, like, okay, I get it. Going within, and that's when you grow truly. And so the good part of growth, and to really lean into that, is that it has allowed me to be more intentional about how I wanted to spend my time, and with whom, and what thoughts I wanted to have. And I became more present with myself and with my family and with God, and curious as well in different ways that I never thought I needed or were possible. And so the good part of all of that is definitely, just having more peace and clarity. Traveling around the world does not give you any peace necessarily. Moving, making changes, all that is external. But the clarity, the peace, and then as I grew within and connected, it allowed me to make much deeper connections also with the people around me as a result. And so it makes life fully and truly more enjoyable. And so that's the result.
Interesting. Yeah, to challenge yourself from that point of view and all the growth and the goodness. So in pursuit of your dream, you had to become more intentional. It's true. I mean, if you're a busy wife, working mom, you are not going to have a lot of time to pursue a dream unless you make it intentional. Like you're saying, unless you get really curious about how. I love that. Unless you find clarity, and unless you do some deeper inner reflection. That's what I hear you saying. And so, not that that's the only way, but that is certainly the good that came out of pursuing your dream for you, and among other things, of course. But I just appreciate that you give the listeners some tangibles about, these are so many good things that come from pursuing your dream that are far deeper than even a paycheck, far deeper than even an accolade or an award. And I really, really appreciate that. So, okay, so we have to go to the bad. That's for sure. We have to move on to the bad. And when I say bad, I give you guys, I'll let you guys know what I'm describing as bad is things that were obstacles that actually turned into opportunities. They were perceived as bad, but became opportunities. So share a couple or one or two of those, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what I see is that when you pursue something that you really want, you've never done before, then there's that everything, you experience a lot of new things, that newness is unfamiliar, right? It can be uncomfortable because you don't know. You know how to be you, the old you, that did not necessarily, that would just travel the world, but then not really go within and really figure things out at a deep level. So it's like, it can be uncomfortable sometimes to just do new things, and you can either freak out more, and then just that doesn't help, or you just lean into it. It's like, well, what is it? This, you lean into each situation instead of running away from it, basically, and you see what information it holds. That God actually constantly makes a way forward when you do that, right? We usually stay stuck when we don't. We're trying to avoid something. We're not really leaning into what's in front of us, and because we don't know. Sometimes we don't know, we don't. It's just like that. When the Israelites were, in front of the this body of water, and behind of them were an army at them. So there was no way. There was no way that they could see. But somehow God made a way. Right? You just have to stay put. And so that's the bad is the uncomfortable, with the new, but again, it could be good if you really lean into it.
I love it. Yeah. So the bad that really turns into the opportunity, and it certainly has for you. That is for sure. I mean, just pushing through those challenges and not just pushing through, but seeing the opportunity that lies on the other side. I appreciate you saying that the unfamiliar or the uncomfortable creates newness. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We perceive it sometimes as bad, but it actually is a great opportunity for the
If we could
creation.
hold ourselves a little bit longer before just slating it as scary or whatever, and then we get all, wrapped up around something that isn't. It's just new. It's just new.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, discerning between what is bad versus what is just new and unfamiliar. I like that. Okay, so we have to go to the ugly. And the way we're defining the ugly is the things you had to actually confront and deal with that surprised you even. Like and maybe pitfalls or things you'd want to avoid, but there are some hard things that happen when you pursue a dream. And would you mind sharing some of yours?
Yeah. To me personally, just growing has led me to do a lot of catching up with people around me. Especially, for instance, my husband. At the beginning, and then I constantly feel the nudge to kind of, okay, just kind of catch up, be honest, tell him what I need from him, and if I don't have the support, that if he doesn't get it, it's okay. And I have to not avoid the conversation in the fear that what if, because truly, it can be scary to have this level of honesty, but God makes it work. If we really truly, His plan is perfect, and I do not need to compromise. And so a lot of having those uncomfortable, because again, it's new. I don't know where it's going to lead to, but that's the only way. And even with my children, they are going through their own transformation, with preteen, teen years. So it's just for me, sometimes the house can be like a boiling factory. We have these days where it's like, oh my goodness, I see everything. Because especially if I lean in with me and myself, I see a lot. So I see a lot all around me with people and everything. So it's just taking a step back and see that it's all part of a process. Like my first instinct, I want to fix everything. And then I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I'm like, I can't do this. But then I realized that it's part of a process. And you know what? That is theirs. It's out of my control. And so just normalizing all of this, just being present and then make the shifts with what I can control and let them have theirs. Creating that space where it's okay, they're having their thing, and then just even verbalizing it that way for them as well, because they don't know what's going on. And so the fact that I'm doing this hard work, I'm a little bit ahead of them. So it allows me to just say, oh, this is what's happening. And I don't have to be more involved in that. And then all of a sudden, everything, it becomes a lot more handle. I mean, I can handle it, one day at a time. Why worry about tomorrow? Let's just focus on right now. And what can I do to just be present, to be there, to take care of myself? So there's also other things that I do not tolerate or accept in my life. Like every time I change, my environment is no longer fitting, and my friendships or and so realizing that can be daunting. It's like, oh my gosh, what is this doing? And it's just part of it's part of a process. And so so just really realizing a lot, but really taking a step back and not just trying to be part of the problem, just letting things take their own time to process and continue the work, the personal work that I'm doing.
Well, that's a good eye opener, because you're right. Some of the ugly, I would say, is perhaps relationships and or environments that no longer fit you as you grow and pursue a dream. And that isn't always accounted for. I mean, sometimes people perceive that might happen. But then when it does happen, it's like a shock, right?
Mhm.
And it can take us out of pursuing our dream. But I appreciate how graciously and gracefully you looked at it. And as you said, normalized it as development rather than a problem. And
Mhm.
that everybody's in that stage. So well done to you, my friend. How has how has your mindset shifted since doing the work in Live Your Vision in terms of elevating your thinking?
It's a never-ending process. I'm constantly catching my thinking, my emotion. I think it's part of, just loving myself. It's not just a one time, it's like a
Yeah.
daily and multiple times through the day. I ask myself and the spirit, how am I doing? What do I need today? Because I believe that what's inside of us will come out.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, doing, podcasting and curating content and coaching programs, if it's not life, if I'm not in a place that is at peace, that is not life-giving, whatever I'm going to create is not going to be life-giving to anyone and helpful. And so I know it starts with me. And so I read my Bible, I converse with God, I have business meetings with God, I listen to a lot of podcasts constantly. Every opportunity I'm driving, coaches, that inspire me, like knowing what I need in the moment. And then um, reflect on tools that I have, like what have I learned? What do I know how to handle this particular things? And get out of my way, every time. Or out of my way, or just leaning into unwanted feelings to just find new information of what I need next. It's just, I feel like it's all part of, that's my responsibility. I have
Yeah.
to do that for
So
myself and for
owning
people.
your growth and knowing that it's ever ongoing is what you're saying. I hear you saying, right?
Yeah, it doesn't stop. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise we stop growing as
True.
well.
Very true.
So this
100%.
is life.
So tell me, okay, I have three last quick questions that we can cover before we run out of time if we can. But what would you say has been what are you most proud of that you have grown or accomplished to date?
Yeah, it's funny because at first I was thinking, okay, so what does everyone want to hear? Like, do they want to see that do they want to know that I travel the world and that by the age of 22 I had learned 11 languages? Or, I could say, because it does feel great, and very expansive when fun things happen. Like, for instance, on my first year in real estate, I collaborated with celebrity $1 million agent Ryan Serhant and we did a deal together. So those things are great, but truly what I'm the most proud of is the freedom that to
Mm,
be myself, just the way God created me, to choose my thoughts very carefully, to marvel at God, to be grateful, to be present. No one can take that away from me, right?
mhm.
It is for freedom. I set you free, and I that's my responsibility to continue to walk as free. And
I love
that's
that.
very important. That's something I value very deeply.
That
So
is
I would say that.
beautiful. Wow, that was beautiful. I love it. And what advice then would you give someone who is pursuing their dream or a great new chapter? Since you're through many of those, but what advice would you give to someone?
I think that it all starts with God and self. So
Okay.
I would say to nourish those relationships, with God and with yourself, with oneself, because something really beautiful can emerge from that. And we don't know, we don't have all the answers, but we have to be able to love ourselves and understand ourselves to before we can make any positive impact around us, and then go to the source. Well, why was I created? I would say also getting coaching for extra guidance, and find a community for support. But I believe it's already in there, hiding in plain sight, and we just
Mhm.
need to nourish that.
I love it. I love it. These are so helpful. Thank you. Okay, so the last question I want to ask you is just what are you most excited about coming up? You kind of leaked a little bit of it out, but I don't know if that's where you're going to go. We don't rehearse these questions or these interviews ahead of time. We just let, as she said, the spirit roll. So what comes out, comes out. So tell us now what you're most excited about in terms of what's coming forward in the future.
Well, I mean, I have lots of dreams and visions and all of that, but what's next really is, I'm currently, like I said, deepening my work and niching for my podcast. So I will say, so I will be announcing soon, all the new things that are coming up with my podcast and how I can serve further the women that I serve. But right now, I would say just really, just being, if you can find me on 1 Minute to Glory, and there's 25 episodes to binge on. I'd love people to definitely listen up and review my podcast. That will be helpful. But those are the things that truly are life-giving, because it's just something that I have learned, and I'm just sharing it openly, and it just comes out. And the fact that my podcast can be a platform for other people as well, it just gives me a lot of, like a good ground to stand on. And so it's something that I'm excited about.
Well, we will be anxiously awaiting the announcement about what is new. So before you mentioned that you do this podcast, could you tell people where to find you?
Everywhere. You can, like Apple Podcast, Spotify, but I mean, definitely any podcast platform. Just type 1 Minute to Glory or my name, Alexandra Alvarez, and you'll be able to find me.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our time together today. Thank you so much, Alexandra. It's fun to flip the script, as I said. And
yes,
I am so proud of you. It's really exciting to watch you use your voice in such a powerful way. And I am really, I don't know what she's going to roll out or announce. So I'll be waiting just like everyone else. If you all enjoy these conversations, then please follow, subscribe, wherever platform you're on. We're here on YouTube, and you'll be able to hear more of those in the show notes, and the links and all of that will be found below. But I am so thankful to have you all here. I am so thankful to have Alexandra with us today. And I love watching the growth and the evolution. To watch women really live is my greatest joy. So I hope y'all have a great day. Thank you.